for joining us to the This Week in NVG cast presented by Upswing Poker. You're now live here. Give me one moment, guys, just to get things together. Okay, cool. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. I'm hoping to kind of turn this into more of a regular thing, but I want to take all of the popular stories in poker and kind of talk about them, say what I really think, kind of like an insider view on the world of poker, what's going on, and really kind of bring to you a behind-the-scenes look, I guess, at some of these stories. But to start off with, I want to talk about poker in 2016, because there's a thread on 2+2 in MVG called "Why Would Anyone Start Taking Poker Seriously in 2016?" And I think, to really think about that, you kind of have to think about what your goals are, and you can't really compare poker to, where it's at today with where poker was in the Tom Dwan 2007, etc. type era. So for starters, and this really has to be said, poker will never be what it was in 2007 or 2004 or 2001. It's never going to be like that because people have gotten a lot better. If you look at how far people have come in terms of playing poker, in terms of their overall ability, the field has just gotten way stronger. As the field gets stronger, what happens is people they know that they're worse relative to other people. The economy's worse. There's less shots being taken. I'm sure I can remember as much as any of you guys back in the day when there was the Isildur versus Tom Dwan battles at 501k, and I was like, holy shit, this is going off. And then that would be going on the side, like Guy Berté would be playing versus all the different regs. It seemed like every day there was super high stakes nosebleed action, and obviously I'm going to miss that because I didn't really get to be part of that boom. I came along a little bit later, but I really did want to be part of that. It was just cool, just seeing all of that high stakes action going down. So I guess people see that that's now gone, right? And they think, oh, well, if that's gone, what even is left here? Where is poker? What's happening with poker? And the thing is, it's never going to be like that, but that doesn't mean that poker is dead. Online poker, in online poker, there are still people making, $1 million or a couple $1 million a year. There still are a lot of regs that come from nothing and manage to make their way into mid-stakes, no limit. Shout out to Danmer. But a lot of different guys that really still manage to climb that ladder. There still are a lot of very healthy poker sites. Sure, PokerStars really pissed some people off this year, rightfully so. If you make promises to your customers and then you say, you know what, meh, you're going to make some people angry. And it made people even more angry because PokerStars had always been so loved, right? But still, PokerStars has a ton of volume, a lot of players. And in some ways, maybe the games have gotten a little bit easier. There are still lots of other big sites that, don't have those same nosebleed games. But, if you look at sites like, Bodog is big, ACR is growing, Party Poker is big, 88's the second biggest company. There's a lot of big companies still. So, poker is not dead. But the dream, quote-unquote dream, has changed. It's no longer one day I'm going to run it up and play with Durr at 501k, right? That's not the dream anymore. The dream is that you're going to use online play as a platform to launch your career. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yeah, guys, play online poker for the rest of your life and you're going to make a ton of money. You might be able to make sustainable money. You might be able to make good money. But if your goal is to kind of do what those guys did before in today's society, you're really trying to get to a point where you can transition into, live poker, into the high stakes games live. There are still a ton of nosebleed games in casinos, guys. And I think that really, if I had to say the one point why, I think people still should be getting into poker in 2016, it's because this ecosystem still exists in live poker because at the end of the day, people like to gamble. If you look at open-faced Chinese, right? I never really got into it. I don't really understand it. It's not a game that really appeals to me. But if you look at how big that game became, that's because people like to gamble and they found a new game to gamble with that wasn't as solved. That changes increasingly every day as games like OpenFace, become more solved, but they find new variants, right? Because people want to gamble. So if I had to answer the question, why would anyone start taking poker seriously in 2016? I would say because people like to gamble and those opportunities will continue to exist. So let's change topics here a little bit. Let's move on to the next story. I want to talk about the Jason Mercier tournament run because a lot of people have been hitting me up. Actually, it's funny on Twitter every day, like, Jason Mercier is deep in something, and someone tweets at Doug Polk Poker, oh yeah, who's the bad reg now? And I'm just like, okay. So I kind of want to do two things here. I first want to clarify kind of my position, and then I want to talk about Jason Mercier's run itself. So to talk about my position, when I had Jason labeled as a bad reg, it was specifically in the games that I was playing in, which are higher stakes games. So, do I think Jason is an amazing player? No. But I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's definitely winning in most of the fields he's in. I wouldn't quantify him in as a bad reg in terms of all the players. That's just certainly not true. Okay, so I don't want it to seem like I was making Jason out to be some terrible, terrible tournament player. I just don't think he's, one of the best in my book. Okay, in terms of online games, he is a bad reg in that he's lost, I think, $500,000 or $600,000 on high stakes DB. You can go to high stakes DB, you can check it. Okay, so in the games that I took that note on him, he is a bad reg. In life, obviously not, crushing it. So I just want that little bit of a, I guess to be kept in mind as I continue to talk about this. Second off, I don't really understand why the tournament community glamorizes just these deep runs so much. It's kind of insane to me. Guys, if you play a 100-person tournament, no matter who you are, you have a great chance of going deep in it. It's just the way that it is. There's 100 people. If you were break even, you're 1% to win. If you're slightly winning, it becomes 1.2, 1.5, whatever. So, when you look at like Jason Mercier's run of getting a first, second, first, he made 3 straight final. For those of you who don't know, Mercier made 3 straight final tables in 10K events. Even if he was doing well in the field, let's say he was crushing those fields, his chance of having that type of result is still, 2% to win a tournament, right? So the chance of that run has, sure, ability plays a role, but just overall volatility and variance in tournaments is really what makes that possible, right? It's not like, wow, he's awesome. He got a first, second, and a first. And if you look at all the different runs, like every year there is a different player at various points of the year that just goes on like this just absolutely ginormous heater, right? For starters, the Dan Coleman heater, that was real, guys. That was a thing. The who was before him? The Nicholas. What's Reagan 70's name? Nicholas Heinecker. I'm gonna mess up his name for sure. That was also insane. The Fedor run recently, insane. Seidel had this run at the start of, I believe, 2013. I could be wrong. 2014, where he just won everything. And like when players play these small fields, Steve O'Dwyer, another example of a run like that. When people play these small fields, what ends up happening to them is when they go on these just crazy runs, you're like, wow, this guy must just be, the nuts, right? He must just be like the best player ever because he won all these tournaments. Really what you're looking at is, a lot of volatility in a small sample size over, just a small pool of people. So oftentimes, and I'm not taking away from any one of those people. I'm not saying that they're bad players. Most of them are great players. Some of them better than others. But the thing is, we as humans, we just attach to results. Like, there's proof he's good. He won a tournament. But I just really want people to understand that playing a tournament and not playing a tournament are almost the same in terms of thinking about moving forward, like what it means their future results are. If someone plays a tournament and wins it, or someone doesn't play a tournament, it doesn't actually mean that much in their next tournament's expected value. So you have to look way more at the individual plays a player makes than just say, okay, guys, he won a tournament, this guy's the best. Anyway, going back, I want to talk about Jason Mercier's run a little bit more. I am involved in the against on 3 bracelets bet. I wasn't originally. I took a position up after the first bet, and that kind of brings me into the Mercier Selps bet. So for those of you that don't know, apparently there was an exchange between Jason Mercier and Vanessa Selps where, drunken or not drunken, or I don't really know at this point, but they made a bet that Jason would not win 3 World Series of Poker bracelets this summer. And the bet was Selps $1.8 million. Yeah, you heard me correct, $1.8 million to Jason Mercier's 10K. Okay. Then Selps claims that she tried to buy out of it because she was drunk when she made the bet, and Jason wouldn't let her out. So when I first heard this story, I said, wow, kind of a dick move on Jason Mercier's part. Because, let's say I was like drunk with my friends and they were like, all right, Doug, my like $2 million to your 10K, you can't do this. Then, the next day, like, dude, I was wasted. Like, can we just not do that? Can we just not do this bet? I would say, oh man, if you're my friend, I would be like, sure, right, no problem. If I didn't really know you that well, I'd probably make you buy out, but we could probably discuss like a fair result. And I also don't know the relationship between Selps and Mercier, so I don't really want to be the person to say like what should or shouldn't happen because I don't know their relationship. I really don't know them. But then it came out in between their exchange on Twitter and between what Selps posted that 2 days earlier she had made a bet with Dmitry. I'm going to butcher his last name, Urbanovich. I'm sorry, man. I'm going to butcher it. But with Dmitry, a recent EPT winner, that he gave him the same bet. I think it was maybe 200 to 1 instead of 180 to 1. And then, she says, well, the reason I bet against Jason was because I, already had this bet, and the chance of multiple people winning that bet is really bad because they're going to be competing. But then I was like, wait, so your story has changed because the initial story was I was wasted and I made this drug bet. Oh man, so stupid. And now it's like, oh, so 2 days earlier you made the same bet with someone, and now you're just like, saying, oh, I'm drunk. Well, you clearly weren't drunk because you made the same bet 2 days earlier. Or maybe you were drunk regardless. Maybe it's time to stop drinking. But two days earlier, you made the bet with somebody else, and now you're saying you won out of the second one. Well, what I think that says to me is that really shows intent. It shows that she knew what she was doing. She did it again, and that was what her plan was. So I guess initially I was like, wow, it was kind of mean from Mercier. But then as more, facts came out, I kind of felt bad for Selps. Anyway, Selps really, you could tell this was a lot of money to her, which, I mean, frankly, who has enough money where 1.8 million isn't a lot to them? That's a lot for me. That's a lot for anyone, right? So I guess the other question here is why bet amounts of money where like you can't even afford to lose, or if you do lose, it would be like really bad for you, right? I don't understand why you'd make that bet. So those things considered, Selps, after the first win, comes out publicly with this big thing. And yeah, like, why wait until the first bracelet? Why not do this before, You look bad if you're like, oh, yeah, I was just going to let it ride, but now he's won one, so now I'm going to come out and say something. It just screams like, oh, hey, I'm losing this bet. Now I need, like, sympathy from people when, you had such a long time where you could have come out and said something and you chose not to, which just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, so she wanted to sell some of the action. I got a little piece on the side. I'm not going to disclose any details there, but basically, I am now rooting against Mercier to win 3 bracelets, which has definitely had its moments of sweat so far. He's won 2. Luckily, I think about 2/3 of the schedule is done. But I really want people just to understand, like, the true variance in tournaments and in winning or losing tournaments, and then just try to have an informed opinion moving forward. Also, don't make bets while you're drunk, guys. I think that's something that we can take away from this. Okay, so changing subjects again here. Let me see what we got going at NVG. Poker stars are moving regular heads-up tables. So I understand this subject. You guys were like, heads up, like, who cares, dog? Well, I care, guys. I care. But I have to bring this up because this is really, these are my roots, right? This is like my family. This is where I grew up. And I have to say it's been an up and down year so far for the world of Heads Up No Limit. The year started off, looked like things were going a bad direction overall. PokerStars was rolling back a lot of their benefits. They were increasing the rake. They removed high stakes rake back. I was getting a little bit on edge, right? And then PokerStars says, okay, guys, no more heads up tables. We're going to make every table Zoom. And it was like the angels had descended upon me and they said, Doug, would you like to play Heads Up No Limit? And I said yes, and it was good. And on the second day, my heads up stable rose again. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to go down that road. But anyway, it was awesome. Action boosted a ton. People were actually playing. There was incentive to play to hold down the lobby. People couldn't dodge me. I was just holding down the lobby for a little bit there while I had the opportunity to do so. And I thought, wow, this is the second coming of Heads Up. Finally, people are going to be battling in the streets, right? Action was up across the board. It was a fantastic thing. And I was so pumped PokerStars had done this because it helped us, right? It helped me, it helped the Heads Up community. Yes, the mid to bad regs were upset, and which was 90% of the community. So there was a lot of complaining. A lot of people call this the death of Heads Up. In my opinion, this gave Heads Up life. It made a game that, didn't get much action. It gave people a reason to fight. So, the mid to high stakes regs that were strong players, they benefited. The weak regs that were just trying to, kind of suck off the system, they died. which I was okay with. And I think in general for poker, the people that want to play, that are trying to play, should be rewarded. So now I'm riding this high, right? I'm like, this is awesome. Poker is great. Heads up, awesome. And then Stars rolls out the new rake, and I look at it, and it's just like 7x the rake at 2550. And I just did the math. It's like almost 3 blinds per 100 at 2550 heads up. Let me tell you a little bit about 3 blinds per 100 heads up. Versus other good regs, good luck. Good luck beating someone by more than 3, okay? Not to mention the earlier changes where they got rid of rake back. It's 7 times the rake, or maybe it was 6 times the rake. Maybe I'm off by 1x here, but it was a drastic increase in rake with removal of rake back. So now it went from being amazing to just being way worse than before. Now you can't even win, guys. And this is the sad truth. At like NL 50 or NL 100 heads up, I think I would have a hard time beating those games, which really says a lot on specifically PokerStars. NL 100, they doubled the rake. It was already absurd how much rake you're paying. Now it is twice as much. Okay, that's just so hard to beat. So I guess when I look at what PokerStars did this year, they were trying to kill heads up no limit, and mission accomplished. It's pretty much dead. But it was just that roller coaster was just crazy to me in that, like, they made it so much better and then so much worse. The effects moving forward, it's kind of hard to say. I think what is interesting about this is now that it's hard to battle for those tables because of rake, what is going to happen is certain regs are going to get to hold the tables down and get the really weak action. But at the same time, when the weak action shows up, other people will roll in. So I think that, 2017, 2018, et cetera, if PokerStars doesn't try to make some changes to the heads-up format, it will never fully die, but it will certainly be lowered. And they're definitely removing the ability for people to climb the heads-up ladder by increasing the rake. Now, there's still lots of other options for people. They can play heads-up sit-and-goes. They can play tournaments. They can play six-max. These are formats that I believe to be a lot more beatable than specifically heads-up. But, now you have to be aware of that when moving into that type of play and make the changes appropriate, in your games in order to be winning. Let's see, what else do we have here that I want to talk about? I want to talk a little bit about what happened with Jacqueline Moscow on Poker Night in America. And I definitely want to preface this with these are only my opinions. I have no additional facts that anyone else doesn't have. But, if you guys watch Joe Ingram's podcast, definitely should, by the way, a lot of good content there. But if you've watched his podcast, Sean Deeb came on, talked a little bit about the event, and then Jacqueline came on, also talked about it. So these are just things that I guess I feel to not be taken with any factual evidence at all. It does seem to me like in the story, there are some things that are probably true and some things that are probably false. I just want to say a third time, I don't know, I wasn't there. The things that seem true to me are like the motorboating incident, like that in conjunction with the text that apologized. That just seems very likely to be true because it just makes sense to me. I can also visualize that event happening. I imagine it was a lot more playful in person when it went down, but I just don't think that that's an event that would be made up in a group of people. And then the text by, I forgot who sent the text afterwards, I forgot, doesn't really make a lot of sense to me for that to be fake. Some of the comments made to her, like particularly the Sean Deeb one at like the stairwell or the elevator or something where he turns around and says like, women will never be good at poker. I just kind of have a hard time seeing that because, it just doesn't really make sense in a story. Like if someone came up to me or someone walked by me and they were a girl, like, or I knew who they were and they were a girl, just imagine me being like, yeah, women will never be good at poker. Like what induced that? Like there has to really be a conversation there, a reason, Also, like I just wouldn't say that. Personally, I think women tend to be underrepresented in poker and they have a lot of problems in poker. Frankly, maybe even because they're treated too well. That's a different story. I really don't want to go down. I know there's some people that will be angry at me for saying that, but really, why would someone just turn around and like make fun of someone for their gender or anything like that for no reason? It's just weird. It's like a really weird offhand comment that just doesn't make that much sense to me. And a lot of the different parts of the story, they seem hard to really, because it's one person and one other person, so it's just like someone said, he said, she said, hard to really say much. But what I will say is it does seem very likely to me that some degree of harassment went down. There's a lot of different things here, and there's varying amounts of evidence. However, there's a couple things I really don't like in the way that Jacqueline handled this. And the first thing was not bringing up that because in her story, she's like, yeah, then they tried to buy me out for $20K. And then it comes out when they're talking like, oh, Jacqueline tried to get $100K. Well, if you're gonna try and make it seem like they tried to, buy you out for $20K, and then not mention that, you actually asked for $100K, that's extremely misleading. Even if they open with 20 and then you say 100, that should be in your story. At least explain where you're coming from and why you said 100. If you leave that out and then they get to say it later, it just makes you look bad, because now you're like, oh yeah, they tried to buy me out, but I wouldn't let them buy me out. And then you're like, oh, but I would have done it for 100. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't make you look good. It makes your side of the story seem a lot weaker. So I think maybe in her original story, which by the way was well written, if you've not read it, I forgot, maybe I read it on her Twitter, I can't remember, but Jacqueline's story was well presented, I thought, overall. But you need to make sure you include all of the facts, because if you don't, it's like you're going to look like you're hiding something. And, I've been in my fair share of NVG shakedowns, and whenever I try and go in there, I had the thing where people thought Jungle Man was on my account. I had the thing where JNYC accused me of stealing his money when he stole my money. I've been in some shit, the Joshua Tyler incident. And the main and most important thing is to come out. If you're going to come out and say stuff, you need to make sure you don't hide facts that people are going to be like, oh, so you wanted 100. You don't want to give ammunition when they don't have ammunition, if you're innocent. So I would say she could have handled it a little bit better in the way that she wrote the story. And, it's going to be tough, I think, to actually know what happened. But I would not be surprised in the least. And it does sound like some things went down with her that are unfair. And yeah, I guess we'll just have to see what ends up happening there. I just wanted to give my general thoughts. What other subjects should we talk about here? I want to do a couple more. Oh yeah, let's talk about guys. The boys are back in town. No, it's the FTP boys. No one actually wants them back in town. In fact, people would prefer if they would leave. They're not really the boys anymore. They're kind of the old men. And there's a lot of tension running high. A lot of people saying they're going to slow roll all these guys, etc. Now, I just want to say this kind of just as a note. I'm not defending the FTP guys in any way. There are different levels of the mistakes people made, and I'm not going to claim to know the ins and outs. Frankly, when I saw the Howard Lederer video, the first thing I did was click the Seriously Serious Howard Lederer Tells All video, because that one was way, way, way better. If you've not, definitely check that out on YouTube. Hilarious. But anyway, was not going to sit there and watch the Howard Lederer files for 2 hours. What I will say, at least it seems to me, that Howard Lederer and Chris Ferguson, I think a lot more of the blame falls on Howard Lederer's shoulders than Chris Ferguson. Is he one of them? Sure. Can he make a lot? Sure. I'm not saying he's right. Frankly, he's a bad guy too. But Howard Lederer is truly the mastermind here and deserves much more of the blame. Also, Ray Bitar. Someone was like, guys, Ray Bitar spotted at the Rio. And then it was just some really fat guy that looked like Ray Bitar, which is quite funny. I don't actually think it was Ray Bitar, unless it came out later that he's gotten extremely fat again. But, I don't really know. It's tough for the community because these guys stole so much money, right? They just stole so much money. And now they're back and they're like, okay, we're here, we're hanging out. What are you going to do about it? Maybe it's tough because, what does the Rio really do? Are they like, okay, guys, you're not welcome to play here? I mean, they could frankly do that. I'm not sure what their reasoning would be, but at the end of the day, these are still people and they're kind of exercising their right to be able to play at the Rio. I'm pro, if you guys can slow with them at any point, by all means, go for it. But it's just a tough situation because they're so hated. If I was them, why would you want to come back? I don't really understand. It's not like they're good at poker. Are they going to come back and they just want to be back in the public eye? Maybe they're planning their next moves. I have no idea. But it's definitely something that we're going to have to deal with. And I would just say, guys, to, if you ignore them, but don't just stir stuff up and try and engage in that battle, because what good is it going to do? The money is gone. It's in Howard Lederer's bank account in whatever island. Yeah, they're going to have a rough time with the series this year. Anyway, moving on. There's another subject or two I want to talk about. Apparently Jared Blesnick banned from the Rio for crumpling up cards and throwing them at someone or something. First off, who does that? Come on, bro. You can't throw stuff at people like some other people may or may not have done. There's another couple topics here. We talked about the Vanessa thing. Why is Phil Ivey not at the Rio this year? I believe he's playing in some very large games in Asia. I think people are kind of done losing money to Ivey in bracelet bets. I know I am. I think 2 years ago I had the bet against him, and yeah, you just felt the whole time like I'm just giving money to Phil Ivey, and then I did. That sucked. But I imagine he's got some big games going on in Asia, and that's why he's not here. Remember, guys, for poker players in general, the main goal for them is to make money, not the fame. Phil Ivey's already well known. He's already very famous. He doesn't need to win another bracelet for people to know who he is. So I imagine that he's somewhere doing something that is pretty important. But I don't really know. Absolutely no idea. And I think that's going to just about round out this week in NVG. We're going to be back next week. We're going to make this kind of a running segment week to week, probably every Wednesday. I will let you know if it changes. I'm actually going to go ahead and take a few comments here from the chat if you guys have any. Jared Gray, Jared Blesnick is the person, otherwise known as Harrington10 online. If anyone has some quick topics that they want to discuss, always feel free to leave it in the chat box and we can discuss it afterwards. Looks like we're running pretty low on those subjects. So that's going to do it here today. Thank you for joining us for This Week in NVG presented by Upswing Poker, and I will see you guys next week.